Today, I'm excited to be joined by one of my inner circle members, Ryan Price, who's the director of Surrey Heating Specialists. You see, in this powerful and inspiring episode, Ryan shares with you how he's gone from being that ultimate busy fool heating engineer, working 14 hours a day, burnt out, stressed out with no life, to building, growing, and scaling his business to over 7 figures, improving his boiler sales by 329%, increasing his care plan sales by 134%, and now gaining over 1,000 five-star online reviews. And in this conversation, I find out exactly what it is that Ryan has actually implemented into his business to help you to do the same so you can get the same staggering growth results as what Ryan has now achieved. And it doesn't matter whether you're an electrician, joiner, roofer, or plasterer. The principles of building and growing a business are the exact same. So grab your notepads, grab your pens, and let's get stuck in. So Ryan, thank you for joining me on the show. I'm delighted that you're on because I know you've got some valuable information, knowledge, and strategies that you're going to share. How are you? You good?
All good, buddy. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Amazing. Right, Ryan, before we get into all this, what I'd like to do is rewind right back to the very beginning to understand what your journey is and how you've gone from where you started to where you are now, because it's an inspiring, inspirational journey. So if you take us back right to day number one, how did you end up becoming a plumber and an heating engineer in the first place? Where did it all start?
Yeah, so I started in 2008 with British Gas. I've done an apprenticeship with them, and it was well, it was literally like a year sort of apprenticeship, and then you went out on the tools. Done quite well there. I ended up being sort of like one of the highest paid engineers there, sort of doubling my wages just on overtime. So it was a good job there, and I was doing sort of well there. I've spent 7 years at BG, and then they sort of cut back the overtime, so I ended up buying my own little van and starting up Surrey Heating around about a year before. I got asked to leave basically because I got caught doing private work.
Right. So you started off at British Gas then. I know you were doing all right because we've had conversation in past. And just talk to us then about your own private work and how it all started, because that's predominantly where I think a lot of us start. I mean, me as a joiner, I remember, I worked for somebody else, but I was doing sort of like fiddle jobs and private jobs behind the scenes. So just talk to us about that.
Yeah, so they were sort of cutting back the overtime, and I was obviously used to that sort of lifestyle, and it weren't really like necessarily my ambitions to like have my own business at the time because I was quite young, but I just needed it really to sort of service my lifestyle, and so I bought a van and I was doing some works on the Saturdays and the evenings because they sort of cut me back for a little bit because they didn't really like what I was earning, I don't think. So yeah, that's sort of how it started. I did a bit of advertising, just like in a local card at the time, and it was going all right. It was going quite well, to be fair. And I got myself in a bit of bother, I think, and they found a gas certificate in my van, and then I had a manager ring me up on my work line and say, "Yeah, all right, Ryan, it's Nigel here," and and I said, "All right, I'll quit." And I just walked. Then I was going to get asked to leave anyway. I basically had to quit.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's a bit of a nightmare because I just bought myself another new house. It's like a substantial house, really, for my age, and I had a bit of a flash motor at the time and all that, and I was pretty skint, so I was literally down to like I had not a lot of money. I was gonna have to I was asking my mates to like lend me money at the time, and it was a worrying time because I weren't really like used to like that sort of pressure because I had sort of a steady job as such. I've been skint before when I was younger for sure, but since I had this job, I had a few years of doing quite well, and then bought this house and got the sack, and it was like, oh, I've got to find from one day a week, I've got to find like 5, 6 days a week. So I
Right.
think everyone has that jump and they're a bit nervous at first and all that sort of thing. But yeah, probably weren't the greatest of time, but then it never is. And sometimes it's better to get a nudge in it. Sometimes when you get put in a position and then you bite off more than you can chew, learn how to chew it. That's how I sort of normally run anyway. But yeah, it worked out. It worked out, and I sort of rolled what I had money. I put it into like Google Ads, and started. And that's when sort of Surrey Heating went full steam, I think.
Got you. So it was that forced you into going self-employed and setting up a business and working for yourself then?
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, I was doing it on the side. It's not quite the same, really, like because you've got no pressure, and you sort of. I had my salary, and I was still doing a little bit internally, and yeah, and then obviously, you've got to just do it all on then the next month you ain't getting you ain't getting no salary. You just took on a big mortgage. So yeah, it was it was worrying at the time, and but looking back, it was pretty minor, really.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So talk to us about that stage then. So you've set up your business, right? You've been found out and you've set up your business, right? And now all of a sudden you've got this nice lifestyle because you were earning good money because we spoke about it before. So what did you do then to get this business off the ground? Because, everybody's been there. We all start off and it's like we don't know what we're doing. There's certain things that we've got to start learning and taking on board to scale this business. So how did it unfold for you?
Yeah, so I was working with. I sort of had a guy that was sort of working as and when with me. He taught me, and he was sort of like, he would do if I got a boiler, he'd do that. He'd help me do a boiler because I weren't really an installer, or we'd do it together. So we sort of started me and him. We had just a little caddy van at first, and then when I got some money together, I bought another van, and it was just sort of me and him. We'd do the boilers together because he was a bit older and things, and then I'd go and do the repairs after. I was in a paper diary, just little squares in the diary, yeah, and writing down the addresses. Listen, it's proper primal from what I'm doing now, like, but that's what it was like for quite a while. So me and him, we I rolled a lot of money into Google AdWords. So at the time, it was like Google Ads weren't quite as it still was expensive. I was still doing a few grand a month. I think like after a little while, I was kept going more and more, and I was doing within probably within a year or two, I was doing a couple of boilers a week on average. Sometimes I'd do 10 a month, sometimes I'll do five, I think the best I ever done before I went in a circle in a month was like 13 boilers in a month. It was just fair numbers, like. Yeah, we sort of, and then I sort of tried to grow in the earlier days, and I took another person on, probably weren't the right move, the right person, and it was just like, crashing the vans, messing jobs up, all that sort of jazz that I think everyone gets, which it was my fault. It was my fault looking back. Really, I just didn't. It weren't the right person for the job. So I sort of like didn't really want to, try that again. I sort of got my fingers burnt, and then I went on another sort of venture. I thought, I'm gonna go into like, because I was doing well. I was earning, fair money after a little while, and went into like property. So I sort of done a bit of a mentoring thing, a bit like what you do, but on the property side. So I sort of got as much money together as I could, and went on this mentoring sort of course, and sort of learned a bit about the property side of things, investment and all that. Refinancing. You know, valuing your time and all that sort of thing, and investing like smartly. And yeah, I've done all right out of that as well. So within a couple of years, I had like a fair sized portfolio of properties that I'd sort of bought, renovated, refinanced, and I'd done a little bit of that. And then I sort of had myself in a position where I was, I thought, I've got a fail safe here. So if anything went wrong, if I rolled the dice on the business, I've got a fallback sort of thing. And I took a service and repair guy on around this sort of time as well. He was a good guy, and yeah, I sort of started moving on from there, and I was sort of looking around to how I could sort of, because at the time I sort of owned a job as such. I still owned a job. That's all I did. I didn't own a business. I'd go and work. The business would earn well if I was working like a dog, but if I weren't, it weren't doing anything. So I sort of it's just one of them. I was just working the hours and then getting the money, but then it just kept going around like that. So that's when I started looking at other things.
Yeah. So back then, when you set your business up, it's starting to grow. You've got another van. You've got more engineers working for you. You're having to put graft in. Your marketing's clearly working with your ads because you're getting your work. But what were some other challenges you were facing in them, let's say, earlyish days?
Well, I think I didn't have like systems or processes in place. So I was sort of winging it. Yeah, I weren't. You know, I didn't know. I knew I was doing all right. My cash flow, like when I was actually working, it weren't a major issue unless it was self-inflicted as such. Like, you know, when I was investing in the properties, I sort of, you know, I went all in at the time. But cash flow weren't an issue. But I didn't really know my figures like I do now. You know, so and also like I didn't have any sort of systems. So you know, forgetting jobs, people ringing you out, you know, all hours, and you forget to put the job in your diary and all that sort of jazz. And I think, you know, I was working long hours as well for you know, on the tools, getting up early in the morning, doing a bit of, you know, trying to, you know, organize everything. It was just organized like chaos, really. But, you know, I was winging it because I was working really hard, but it weren't something that I could do forever. You know, I couldn't do that forever. It was all right from my 20s. I could do it, but I just didn't, you know, I couldn't go on like that. So, yeah, I had you know, all sorts of sort of issues over the years. You know, with trying contractors as well. You know, not having the right things in place with them, and you know, it's just the normal things in business like that. You know.
Yeah, yeah. And we get it, don't we? It's them teething problems. Nobody teaches us how to build, grow, and scale a business. We go at it, and it's that classic mistake in it. I'm busy. I've got work on. I need more engineers in your case. Then all of a sudden, you're caught in a vicious cycle where you might be earning decent money, but if you're working 70, 80 hours a week and stressed out and having all that responsibility and no light at the end of the tunnel, getting out of that, that's where I think most trades business owners are that have been established a few years. They end up falling into that busy full period, don't they? Where they go through it. So what was it that made you decide to contact me about the inner circle? What was it? Why did you contact me?
Well, I sort of finished up with doing, you know, I sort of had a bit, first time in my life, I had a bit of a break and I weren't like really hammering it. And it was, you know, few months through the summer. And, you know, I was playing a lot of golf and all that sort of thing. And then, you know, it got to like the end of the summer and then we was expecting a baby like within the 6 months. And I sort of thought, you know, I need to get back into things because I was getting some bad, you know, I was drinking a little bit more, and it weren't all it was cracked up to be that semi-retirement. I don't think, to be honest with you, yeah, it weren't no good, yeah. But so yeah, and then I was sort of looking around because I'd done well off the other like having that mentor before, and I was looking around, and that's when I sort of obviously found you. Just started using Service Mate as well, but I wasn't. It was like I was using like 5% of it. You know, it was like it was very basic. Yeah, it was compared to what I've got now. So yeah, and then that's when I obviously sort of found you, and I just thought for the money invested, if I just get a few little things off it, it's going to be worth the just worth doing, you know. And so yeah, I started with you, and then yeah, it was literally I think that my partner had the baby around about when I started with you, right? So, and she was actually doing a bit of office work at the time as well. Then she started doing a bit of that, so it was a bit of a crazy time because I started with you, and then the business was sort of doing quite well because I was fully focused as well, and I was implementing new things. And then another engineer went off with a cruciate ligament injury, so I was doing the office stuff. I was doing that. I was on the tools still as well, and it was, you know, it's getting all this working. And I took another staff member on your advice as well, which was one of like the best, probably the best signing I had. And yeah, it was just chaotic, mate. But you know, I spoke to you about it at the time. It was like crazy, like 16, 17 hour days and that. It was mad because I wanted to implement what I was learning as well, because otherwise there was no point doing it. Because me going with you was to buy back my time. That was what I wanted. The money side of things, like I was on good money, but it was more about buying back my time, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, look, you started in a circle. You joined my inner circle 15, and we got involved with that. So, just to put this into a bit of context, then, Ryan, let's have a look at sort of like numbers on things like, your boiler sales and things like that, on where you were when you joined in a circle and you started. Then, what I'd like to do is explore what did you implement and learn from me that you implemented in your business throughout the inner circle. And then, if you're okay, let's have a look at the results of where you are now so people can see a transition that this is where Ryan was. And most people that are listening to this are probably in the same position as you. And if we can back that up with some numbers and stats, people can then see the transformation of what can happen if you get the right knowledge. And more importantly, like you did, get your head down. Even though you had a baby, there were no excuses. You got your head down, you implemented what I shared with you, and the results are there for everyone to see. So if you just rewind back to some numbers, are you happy to share some of them with us?
Yeah, sure.
Right. So your boiler sales, right? When you started the inner circle, how many boilers were you fitting a year?
Between 80 to 100, we was doing a year, yeah. So I think the year before I would have done it was more the lower end, yeah, because I took the foot off the pedal, so it was more towards the 80 mark, yeah.
Okay, so about 80 boilers a year.
Yeah.
And then what about your care plans, your service plans? Because you did have some of them already set up when you started with me. So how many of them did you have?
Yeah, so we had about 280 plans around about the time we started with you.
Okay, so 280 service plans. Then talk to us about reviews, because again, reviews are important. We know that. So how many reviews did you have at that time?
On the Google reviews, we only had around about, I think 50 reviews or something like that on Google, yeah.
Yeah, and then you had some on Checker Trade as well, didn't you?
Yeah, we had about 180 on Checker Trade, or 150 to 180. It was around that figure.
Yeah, okay. And turnover wise then, so where were you at turnover? What were you turning over when you started in a circle?
Yeah, we was doing around about sort of 350 a year, yeah.
Right, okay. So just to put some context onto it, we're doing about 80 boilers a year, about 250-ish care plans, 40, 50-ish Google reviews, 150 Checker Trade reviews and a 350 grand turnover.
Yeah, that is about right, yeah. Yeah, it was around 250 plans, buddy. Yeah, it was 250, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's where you were when you started. But what is it that we implemented on that inner circle that's made this massive shift and this massive difference? So let's start at the beginning. What did we cover off first? Because what I want everybody else to do that's listening or watching this episode now is to literally write down some of these areas that we covered with you, because they've worked for you. They've worked for 30,000 other trades business owners I've coached. So no doubt they'll work for other people. So where did we start with all this, Ryan?
Well, I sort of went all in with the customer sort of journey side of things. So that's where we sort of started with that. Um, yeah, more like a lot of the automation side of things really as well. Like AI just was sort of early stages, and we sort of implemented that, and we've gone even further into that as well. So, we really honed in on that, and also like just the engineers as well, like the incentives, like they really incentivizing them and things like that. So we sort of honed in on those sort of things, amongst the other things that we went through.
Yeah. So your customer journey then. So what we mean by as customer journey, isn't it, is we looked at your entire from a lead coming in, from that lead hitting your inbox, all the different steps and stages that you need to go through to move that lead to a paying customer, and then to becoming getting a 5-star review at the end, which you've clearly done because we'll talk about your review shortly. We went through that entire customer journey and realized it could be massively improved, which then, I suppose, led us on to ServiceMate and Leadzilla, which were the systems that we implemented, weren't there? And you've already mentioned that you just got into ServiceMate. So just talk to us about ServiceMate, what it actually does for you now, because ServiceMate's an incredible tool if used correctly. So talk to us about ServiceMate and how has that made your life so much easier?
Yeah, so I mean, they say that you only use 10% of your potential brain or whatever, didn't they? Yeah, that's what I was doing with Service Mate. I think yeah, I was just literally basic. I could send the invoices and take payment and sort of things like that. But now we've got all the automations linked in, so like it messages the clients as soon as we've completed a job, checks in with them as that we've set up with you. Then it sort of gets asked for the review, so it sort of automates that conversation as well, like a few messages. Um, we've got everything, all the certifications are all sort of married in with it. We've got all all the queues, all the pipelines and everything all married in with Leadzilla, all talking to each other as well. So we can, leads coming in. It's just like all sort of fluid. We've got, apps that you've built in for us and, for images and taking images of boilers or whatever. So, and also I didn't even know what like a funnel was either, before I started with you. So, like we've got the service plan funnel, it all sort of links in and all, comes into our CRM and our world.
Yeah, yeah. So ServiceMate we started using for job management to
Yeah.
manage the actual jobs and the customers and the engineers. And then we introduced Leadzilla, and you've just mentioned funnels. So just share with us what we built for you in Leadzilla and how you're currently using Leadzilla as a marketing and sales tool.
Yeah, so you built us a service plan funnel. You built us a boiler funnel as well, but you built us you done our website as well. To be fair, so like you've done, we use all of that, and that all sort of comes into the sort of central place. Leadzilla's more for the marketing side of things, and then once we've got through that first sort of vetting stage, should we say, yeah, and then when a lead comes in, we send automated sort of emails out, and like just telling them next steps, automations, text messages. So when just communicating with them, holding their hand, as you say, yeah, through the whole process, and then when it's converted to a job, it goes into service mate, and then it's obviously dispatched out by the office.
Yeah. So what we did was we looked at that customer journey, we looked at the systems, we implemented the systems. How important is it, Ryan, for people to systemize the business? Knowing that you were working all them hours before, doing everything manually, now you've took the initiative, you've put the systems in. So why should people consider putting systems in, and what's the benefit to you in doing it?
Well, if you don't put a system in, then you haven't really got a business, have you? So the business is a system, right? So like you want to watch that film, The Founder, yeah, about McDonald's. That's quite a good film to have a look at. They don't make the best burgers in the world, but they got the best system, right? Everyone knows what they're doing in McDonald's, don't they? When you go in there, you see them. That everyone, it's all systemized. Everyone knows what they're doing. So yeah, I mean, it's changed. I mean, I'm not saying I'm fully there or anything like that. Like, I mean, but I'm spending most of my time now working on systems. That's what I do. That's my job. I'm not really on the tools anymore. Like, I'm streamlining the business. Like, that's what I want to do, because I realise you can go and do a boiler service for 100 quid or whatever, but yeah, it's quick money. But if you're building out systems, you might not see that money. But over the 6 months, if you're looking at your P&Ls and that, you're going to see like massive differences. You might be you might build a system or an automation and you're nicking 2 hours a week. But if you keep doing that, you're constantly getting more time back, and then all of a sudden, you know, you'll soon see it in your P&Ls.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. And then after systems, we looked at, we covered 5 full months of marketing, didn't we, on in a circle? But then we looked at your website and how we could, maybe improve that website, get them 16 fundamental features on your website and get it SEO'd. So just talk to us about the website side of it, because you invested into it. Talk to us about the website and the SEO.
Yeah, so on the website we've got everything on there with our like service plans. People can sign up, create a direct debit, all that sort of thing. You know, we've got our FCA approval as well for the plans and everything like that. Also, they can have like go on there and get an instant quote as well, so they can put all their details in it, give them an estimate as such, and then I get the details, and we then follow up. Either and we can at least then if they've taken the quote, we've sort of vetted them for that. It's got little tickers coming up all the time with our reviews. We've got a social proof on there. It's also with like the SEO, like we come up like if you put care plan Surrey and we're coming up like I think third and quite a few things were coming up on first page. Well, I showed you and I like well you done it so but it's got better in it. So we're on page one for quite a few things anyway for our area, yeah. So that's good as well. I think the reviews and everything that we're doing, replying to reviews as well, sort of helps that as well.
Yeah. And talking about your SEO, I remember recording a video because we sent your website live, did the SEO, and then I checked it 10 days later. And within 10 days, the 8 service pages that we built for you on your website, every one of them within 10 days hit page 1 of Google. So this is, what we're working on here is getting the marketing right, getting the systems in place behind the back end of that marketing. So when the lead comes in, that customer journey, ServiceMate and Leadzilla take care of everything, right? And that's what started to systemize your business and allow you to put more leads into it, because now you're not having to stay up till daft o'clock at night doing quotes because the system's taking care of it all.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's still like work to do, and I'm not fully there because you can always improve things, can't you? But I'm not spending my time just on the tool. It's the opportunity loss as well. Like if I go on the tools now, I'm actually losing money because I'm missing probably like I'm doing a lot. I do the sales as well. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm selling. So if you're not getting back to the clients and that, then it's actually cost me money to go on the tools now. And it's too much. It's not good for the. Now I've gone the opposite way, but it's that sort of mind. Well, that's another thing you sort of go through is like a mindset shift as well, really, which I knew about that because it's just the way when I've done the property mentoring and things like that. You've got to change your mindset about money and everything. I don't view money how I used to, and it's more time and buying back the time, and that's you just got to completely change your outlook because everyone's got like this mindset. They think they know everything, don't they? And we're all guilty of it. Like, well, I've recommended to like friends and things about service mate, and like he could get a lot of reoccurring income off it, and he's probably costing him absolute thousands. And when he said, "How much is it?" I said, "It's like 80 quid, mate." And he said, "It's too expensive. I ain't got your sort of money." And I'm like, "No, that's costing you money. Like that's costing you thousands of pounds a year. Like because your reoccurring income is what you want. There's no
Yeah.
point keep trying to get new clients if you've got like a large amount of clients that you do like servicing or maintenance every year or whatever it is you do, But some people just can't see it. They won't spend. They don't realise it's costing them money.
Yeah, yeah. And talking about costing and money, then, one of the things that we also work with you on is the numbers in your business and understanding the finance side of it. So, talk to us about, you came into this process on in a circle, knowing a bit about your numbers, and you've left now. So, talk to us about how important it is to understand your numbers and what numbers and KPIs is it that you're tracking now?
Yeah. So I mean, it was a little bit easier like when it was just me because I'd sort of, or just me and the other guy because I could just write it down manually at the end of the day, and that was all I was doing in the diary. Yeah, like roughly, cost of materials, cost of labour, and then how much we made, and then just work it out from that. And then I knew roughly like fixed overheads weren't overly a lot. So I could, but once you start taking on staff, if you're going to take staff on and then you don't know your figures or you're not doing a cash flow forecast because it's an expensive game, and then you're going to get a VAT bill, then you start getting big VAT bills, 20, 30 grand a month on that. And if you don't know your figures or what you're pricing, and people, the thing with trades is the problem is that they're good at their trade, but they don't really know about how running a business. And I see a lot of them that they're just not making money. I know they think they are, but they ain't making money. Like their VAT bill comes and they're struggling to pay it, and they don't really know like their costs and how much it actually costs to run a business. Because it's, I mean, like just employing someone, whatever you're paying them, you've got to put 20% basically on that for national insurance and the pension side of things, plus their van, plus their fuel. So if you're charging them out of 300-400 quid a day, you're losing. It probably costs you 400 quid a day. It costs me about 350 a day just to have a staff member. So people saying, if they're charging 350 a day, well, you don't bother employing someone, especially if you're going to pay them, sensible money. Because once all the holiday pay, this is the self-employed people. You go away, you're not getting paid. You've got to add all this on, and if you're just doing a day rate, it's just not good. You've got to know your figures, especially when you start taking staff on, even more so. I think even if you haven't got staff, you should. I've got the accounting software. You can pull up reports, use Flow. I can do a forecast like over the next 3 years and put sort of dummy scenarios in, see where we're going, and I can make informed decisions rather than just licking my finger and putting it in the air, which I used to do.
But do you know what? This is music to my ears, this, because I'm sat here thinking, yeah, I remember when we went, we did that cash flow session and we introduced float, didn't we? The cash flow forecasting that connects to Xero and QuickBooks. And I'm sat here now listening to you, Ryan, thinking, you're just a businessman now, aren't you? You have become a businessman. You're not just a busy heating engineer anymore. And for that, that's like music to my ears, that listening to you saying all this. And you've mentioned team as well. And I know you made some mistakes in the past with team members that's cost you. But this time round, you've got it right, haven't you? And you look after your team. So just explain to us a bit more about the team that you learned on Inner Circle.
Yeah, so you sort of go through like, basically if your staff aren't performing to how you want them to perform, then it's not the staff's fault, it's your fault. So, and that's sort of like a bit of an eye opener, really, because it is true. Like, you get a new guy on, and if he's not doing what you want him to do, well, you need to teach him your culture and how you want things done. You have got to do some sort of procedures or checklists or whatever. People just let them wing it, don't they? Yeah. And incentivizing the staff. I look after, I like to think I look after the staff. Don't really have anyone like leave or anything like that ever. And then, I mean, they can earn good money, but they also, if they want a lifestyle contract, then they can have that as well. So like in the summer, I'll give them 4-day weeks. Some of them, and then if they want the overtime, I've got engineers earning probably more than what they would earn working for themselves. Like they're earning 80-90K a year, and probably can, it could probably top that as well. I think if they want to earn it, I want to look after them. I want to keep hold of them, and I think that they can, working together. It's not really. I don't really like being the boss or anything like that. I want to be a sort of a partnership, sort of thing like that. And I've created like bonuses as well, bonus systems as well for like service plan sales, and I'm actually creating dashboards for like my business. I've got a few businesses, now, and I want to have a dashboard where I can just look at where I'm at, my KPIs. So my KPIs are obviously going to be like my service plans, how many service plans we've got this month, boiler sales, heating upgrade sales, recalls. So we want to be nailing these recalls, not getting recalls, things like that. And I want all that so the engineers can see it as well. And it just sort of motivates them as well, So it's you got to, if you treat your staff with a bit of respect and try and help them as much as possible. Like what I used to be like is, and I no one can do it as well as me. If you maybe you did what I did on the first time, you probably didn't get the right guy because you thought he was a bit cheaper.
Yeah. But again, what you're doing and how you're structuring things, and how you're now looking at the numbers. You're looking after your team. You're paying your team probably more than any other plumbing and heating or heating company that I know of. You are looking after them because we know that your team are designed to do your two things: one, save your time, and two, make you profit. But there's so many people out there now that are employing people. They're losing money, like you said, straight away because they don't know the numbers in the business. And then the team aren't pulling the weight or doing things or working correctly, and they're on phone every 5 minutes. What do I do here? What do I do here? Customer wants this. What shall I tell them? So in actual fact, they're losing your money. People are employing people to make them money and save them time, and it's doing the complete opposite.
That's
So
it.
with all this, then Ryan, with all this, you've gone through in a circle, you've implemented it all. Let's then look at the numbers now and compare them from where you were when you first started, because these are staggering numbers. So let's start off with your boiler sales. We said that originally you were doing about 80 boiler sales a year. So how many are you doing now?
Well, the last sort of calendar year we got hit 251, but this like rolling year we're gonna be over 300 easily. So by the end of this, so I run it January to December 31st. So we're gonna hit we'll do over 300 this year. So and I think next year we'll go for sort of 380. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So we've gone from 80 boilers to over 300 boilers. Let's talk about your care plans, because your care plans were around 250.
Yeah.
How many care plans are we on now?
We got 585 now, 585.
Yeah, insane. Okay, so I've worked out some numbers on this, right? So your boiler sales have gone up by 329%, and your care plans have gone up by 134% already. But then let's take it back and look at your reviews, because with your Google reviews, you were saying that you got around 40-ish, 50-ish Google reviews and about 150 checker trade. So where are you now in terms of reviews?
Google reviews, I've got 555, I think, something like that. 500, something around that sort of number. I've got Trustpilot 220, Checker Trade 235, and I've got 57 on Which as well. So it's over
So
a
you've
thousand in it. So
yeah. So now you've gone from having a couple of hundred to over 1,000 Google Checker Trade, Trustpilot, Which Trusted Trader, all them reviews, which is insane.
well, and also we got well, we haven't mentioned it so much yet, but I've got that the bathroom company that we've been working together with as well. We got I think 700 Trustpilot reviews on that as well.
Insane.
For a small enterprise, and we got about I think 60, 70 Google reviews with them as well, with on the plumbing side. But as it's successful in its own right as well now.
Yeah, yeah. And then let's take it back then to turnover, because you said that at the beginning you were turning over 350,000. So
Hmm.
what's the turnover now? What's it increased to?
I think this year in the last sort of 12 months we'd have done around about 1.15, but we've just sort of got another contractor on, so I expect us to hit like 1.4 easily, like over the next year. This is just for the heating team, like without the plumbing side. So
Yeah, unbelievable. 1.1 to 1.4 million is
yeah.
astonishing. And listen, I know turnover's vanity and profit is sanity, but from a profit point of view, you're doing well, aren't you?
We do all right margins. Yeah, I've streamlined it pretty all right. We're a lean company, yeah. So, but it's we've kept let's just say we kept our margins all right as well. So
Yeah, amazing. All right. So that's sort of like proof in the pudding that what you do, and this is what you do, Ryan. You get your head down and you go for it. We've had this conversation, haven't we, before, about people, they plod on long in life and plod along in business, and say I can do this and I can do that, and then they don't do anything. And then there's people like me and you who just relentless. We like a dog with a bone. We get his head down, and when we set a goal, we're going to achieve it no matter what. And that's exactly what you've done. So massive well done on that. But your journey's not stopped there, has it? Because you've now invested into other businesses. So, do you want to tell us a little bit more about response plumbing and hybrid electrical and renewables?
Yeah, so the bathroom sort of plumbing side, it's not fully mine. We didn't really do the plumbing side of things, and I sort of teamed up with a guy. He's sort of quite hungry, good guy, grafter as well. So we sort of partnered up because I've got naturally a lot of work coming through mine. Also, like he's not, and he'd be the first to admit it. Like he's not really on the business sort of side of things. And so yeah, that's working. That's really doing well actually. I think the next year is going to be. It's probably a couple of years behind Surrey Heating, but where I've sort of what I've learned now, I can do it a lot quicker as well. And it's not. He's not going to go through. He probably won't go through the pain I had to go through of working it all out at the beginning, where I was doing the 16-hour days, and because I've got more office staff in now, so the office staff shares the plumbing side as well as such. Yeah. So it's sort of one office staff, and it's like a sister company. And also, we've got some good contractors more so on that, rather than I've got more PAYE, but we've got some good guys coming in on that, doing the bathrooms and all the trades, and we've got a good little thing going there. It's a good little business, and I sort of started the solar business. It's still in its infancy, really, but that's I think it's starting to get traction now. I'm confident over the next couple of years. I think that that'll push right on, but it's still in its early stages at the minute. But it's looking good. We're getting a few commercial jobs in and things like that. It'll be coming to its own, I think, in the next sort of 12, 18 months.
Yeah, and you just hit the nail on the head. You can do this a lot quicker than you could do now with Surrey Eating. Why? Because you've learnt the skills of building, growing, and scaling a business. So, how we do that, whether you're doing what I do now, which is coaching, or doing loft conversions like I used to do, or heating, or renewables, it doesn't matter what you do in business. The principles of building, growing, and scaling it are exactly the same. And you've now got these skills for life. So, it doesn't matter what business you move into, you're going to know exactly what you need to do to grow it, aren't you?
Well, that's it. You hear of these like multi-millionaires, they lose everything, don't they? And then a couple of years later, they got it all back again, yeah, because they've done it before. They know they sort of know what to do. So it's just knowing what to do, and you sort of when you're first doing it, you're testing things out. Some things work, some things don't. That's why I've done the mentoring thing, because if you're just going in blind, it costs you too much money. You know what I mean? The return on investment for me was, to be fair to you, you structured the whole thing pretty well, I thought, and even like with your school thing as well that you got on there, you got going. I got a lot out of it, but I did put a lot into it as well. I went all in. I didn't really see the light of day for probably 2 years. It was tough, but it's worth it now. I ended up getting you know, buying a new property, like it's where I live now, and like a house I never thought I'd ever have. Certainly not in my 30s. Like so I've got a lot out of it. It is and things are looking better. I'm not working the weekends and that now. I'm still doing some long days, but that's me building systems. I'm not going out on the tools. I'm making my business better, and once I've got everything where I want it, and then whether I go for the full Pimlico sort of Surrey, I don't know, maybe we'll see.
Listen, knowing you'll end up doing
I know,
you'll
I
end up going for it. All right. So, Ryan, this has been incredible, this, and just goes to show to other people that if you get the right knowledge and get the right accountability, and you've got the right mindset like you have, and the right hunger and desire to do it, then we can achieve it. So if there's anybody that is listening or watching this now that might want to contact you or reach out to you, what's the best way of them being able to do that?
If you want to tag me in the Trades Freedom Club, that's fine. If you message me on Facebook, sometimes I've missed them because they don't go into my like inbox, and I'm not. That's one thing I sort of lack as well. I'm not really into the social that much, like as you sort of push it, and that's the plan over the next sort of 12 months. I've got the lads to get on, but yeah, if you tag me in Trades Freedom, I'll see it. Or if you do inbox me, if it takes a little while to reply, I will try and sort of check it over the next sort of couple of weeks or so. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Well, Ryan, thanks ever so much for coming on and sharing your journey with us. I do appreciate it. I started off at the beginning of this by saying I'm sure this is going to inspire other people that might be in that busy full stage, that anything's possible if you set your mind to it and you're relentless with it like you are, then you can achieve them results. So thanks ever so much for joining us, Ryan, and I'll catch up with you soon. Thank you.
Cheers, Craig. Thank you.
Now, I'm sure that there's going to be people watching and listening to this episode right now who find themselves in the same position as I was all them years ago and that Ryan was, which is becoming a busy fool and getting nowhere and getting no traction in your business. So if that's you and you want to level up and get the same type of results as what Ryan has, I'd encourage you to apply to join our next inner circle. The link for you to apply and join is in the show notes and the description of this episode. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you on next week's episode and I'll meet you at the top. Thank you.